Quilty is brought to you by Baby Lock Sewing and Long Arm Machines. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Aurifil. Aurifil Italian thread, perfectly suited for all your quilting projects. Fairfield. Together, we can make beautiful things. Free Spirit. A new generation of creative and playful fabrics perfect for fashions, home decor, quilting, crafting, and more. Havel's Sewing. Cut it close with Havels. Moda. Make something quilty with Moda fabrics. Thermoweb. Manufacturer of heat and bond adhesives and new luxe interfacings. Proudly made in the USA. Hi, welcome to Quilty. Erica, welcome back.
Thanks.
I was gonna say my old friend Erica, but as we get older, it's like not cool to say this is my old friend.
No, totally
don't
not.
Don't call me your old friend because then I'll feel the same. We are doing a block called Scoreboard today, and you made up some of these blocks. We're gonna take a look at them. What was your number one sort of like aha moment with this block?
The first thing I noticed is that it's long strips.
Yeah.
And I'm normally not a pinner when I sew things together like this, but when I didn't pin and I was sewing the strips together, I ended up noticing that they weren't even at the top and they stepped down more and more and more, and then my block wasn't square.
We're going to take a look at that and how to avoid that in the show, and that's frustrating, and you're not necessarily a block sewer all the time, right?
No, I'm kind of new to this kind of block.
Right, because you're sort of a more improvisational piecer. Okay, so let's take a look here, and of course the pattern's in the magazine, so look at the magazine for the actual pattern. I do have a copy of it. Here's the block, and here is, I use my tablet sometimes, a lot, at the sewing center to help me look at these things very easily and pull them up. Erica, you have yours on paper.
Yes, I do, because I'm old school.
Old school. And I do that too. I'll print it out sometimes too, but it's helpful to have, a couple copies, one at the sewing machine maybe.
Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. So here's a few versions of the block. Very different styles. We're going to focus on this today, that awesome, they look like little thumbtacks. That
I know, I love this fabric.
Moda print. They do such a good job. So you've done it in a couple different ways. We're just going to show this first. It's such a different quilt. I mean, the way it looks, right?
This was really fun to work with. It was really fun. And once I did one, I thought, oh, look, I can do it these different colorways, and it all kind of goes together.
Totally. And I think you could put all of these together into one quilt.
I'm definitely gonna.
Awesome. Good. Okay, so let's take a look at that block.
Yes,
because this was
my first one.
It was funky, right? Tell me again what happened. You didn't pin, right?
I didn't pin.
Okay.
So I just took one strip and put the other on, went to the sewing machine and sewed. Then when I was all done, I noticed that I had uneven edges.
Funky.
And then when I tried to even it up, it was no longer a square block.
Right, which is frustrating. And so what the point is on this, regarding this, is that as you get more used to sewing, as you're doing more and more, I can speak for myself and say I get in a rush and I get a little sloppy. And I'll tell you, I have a few quilting friends that would agree with me, because I just think, oh, I got this, and I can. It's just a strip. There's not a lot of piecing. I can just sew it together.
Yeah, that's what I was doing too.
Yeah, but that's what can lead to that inaccuracy. And so lately in my patchwork, I've been a little bit more careful. So I think this is okay. So when I had two pieces together like this, I would pin it, and I'm going to just talk briefly about pinning and how we tend to do it. I think part of the goal is to not take too big of a bite. Pinning can sometimes make people like, well, I don't want to do it because it looks like it throws it off. It looks like it throws off your patchwork. But if you just take a little bite there, and you don't have to shove the pin in, all the way to here, leave it like that. I will and I do, as much as you feel comfortable with. Here at the seam is a good place to do it on one side or the other, and go down the row. Some pinners pin a lot. Some pinners pin a few, but it will help you avoid that.
It did, and the other thing that helped me was using the grid on the cutting mat to make sure that I wasn't. I would line up the first strip, and then I could see right here, is my strip too far this way or too far that way?
Yep.
Because when I wasn't checking that is when I got really off.
Got funky. Okay, cool. This is what I want to look at your other blocks too, the vintage fabric you used, but this is the other tip today. There's a lot of strips in this quilt.
There are.
How did you deal with all those strips? Did you lay out each block separately? Because there's no right or wrong way to do this.
After I had cut all these pieces, I did. I laid them out according to the pattern, looking carefully to make sure I was cutting different strips. That's the other thing, is there's a lot of 2-inch strips that are cut at different lengths.
Very, and subtly. I mean,
Yes.
these are 6 distinct little chunks.
Absolutely. So that's what I did, was I laid them out in order on my cutting table,
Yep.
block by block, before I sewed them.
And I do that all the time too. I lay out my blocks to get a visual, and then I take the pieces to the sewing machine. However, so also, yes, and you can do something else. And I have even gotten an extra pizza box from the pizza parlor. What am I? I don't know. I don't want to say what am I, 80? Because we have lovely 80-year-olds who watch Quilty. We love you. But it does sound kind of old-fashioned to say the pizza parlor. However, those pizza boxes are great, just like this piece of mortar board is great for laying out, almost like a paint palette, your different pieces. Right. Really good for a log cabin or something like this where you have all these different strips. And what I'll do is I'll get my flat surface, and I kind of stack these because these are sort of obvious, and you have a lot of the, the big chunks. This is the A in the pattern, and then the C strip. But so the pattern has all these different letters that correspond with the chunks, and so I make a little post-it, and I lay out my pieces like this. I know that's upside down.
That is so smart.
It's kind of good. I'm going to turn this around so the camera can see better. I should have done that before. So, I mean, that, and then I stack them up. I cut as many as I need, and I stack them up. And then what I do after I label, and I'm doing all of this, and you have to be neat and tidy, otherwise, the point is ruined if you're like throwing stuff around. So you have to keep it tidy. But then when I go to the sewing machine, I take my tablet and my board, and I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? That's how I like to do it. So what we've talked about pinning, we've talked about management. Mm-hmm. I'd like to talk about your directional, your aha moment, especially with that vintage fabric.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very cool. So bring up those vintage blocks too. Yeah. What is directional fabric, Erica? Pop quiz.
Haha, it is a fabric that has an absolute direction in the print.
Mm-hmm. Like a stripe.
Yes, like this stripe. And you probably can't see it too obviously, but this print does have a little tiny bit of a direction in it. And I noticed after I cut it and sewed it together that it's going this way, and then on these short ones it's going the other way.
Right.
Oops.
Can't tell on that, and I actually think it turned out kind of cool. Like it's all wonky. But this is a vintage piece of fabric. I know you love vintage stuff.
I do.
Very cool.
So you would have definitely been able to tell with this one.
Yes.
If the stripes were not all going in the same direction. So when I cut this one, I had to also keep in mind that the direction of the fabric was going the correct way when I cut all the pieces.
Absolutely, because otherwise you'd have pieces going like this and like this. And the way you did this looks like applique, because you have these long strips and the stripes follow that too, and it is fabulous. It really looks like these pieces are embedded in that stripe. Yeah, it's awesome. Erica, fantastic.
Thank you.
So much content. I love having you on the show because you're like total. You
I
got
love
this.
being here.
You got this. Thanks to Erica Mulvanna, and thanks to you for watching, and we will see you next week on Quilty, the best show on the internet. What's up? Quilty is brought to you by Baby Lock Sewing and Long Arm Machines. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Aurifil Italian thread, perfectly suited for all your quilting projects. Fairfield, together we can make beautiful things. Free Spirit, a new generation of creative and playful fabrics perfect for fashions, home decor, quilting, crafting, and more. Havel's Sewing, cut it close with Havels. Moda, make something quilty with Moda fabrics. Thermoweb, manufacturer of heat and bond adhesives and new luxe interfacings, proudly made in the USA.